Good evening. It is I, Fang, welcoming you to our first Chill from the Hill. For you see, I have been awoken from my ancient slumber by the Red Duke himself. He has demanded that I do more to earn my keep. He even threatened to hide my canopic jaws lest I find a new and exciting way to frighten our fans. And so, I present to you, my humble listeners, a tale of pure horror I call Castaway. In the 1700s, by the order of the Commodore and captains of the British fleet, a seaman guilty of slaying a fellow tar as he slept was rowed to the first desolate island his ship encountered after the discovery of the heinous crime. Such an island and such a man had one thing in common. Both had been rejected and vomited forth, one by the sea, the other by human society. They put him on shore with a cask of water, a hatchet, a tarpaulin, a flowing piece, 2 kettles, a tinderbox, some hardtack, onions, and a little rice. As the longboat pulled out, his gaze did not linger after it. Indeed, he considered himself fortunate to have escaped the yardman or executioner's dock back in London. He climbed a hill and fastened 2 white shirts to a gnarled tree there as a distress signal. Next, he threw the heavy tarpaulin over a low-slung limb of a tree and weighed the ends to the ground with heavy rocks. The sun was about to set. There would be no opportunity to explore the rest of the island until dawn. In the waning light, he went down to the shore with his fowling piece and shot 3 gannets. He skinned and salted the sea fowl. The next day, he would dry them in the sun. 3 days passed on that sterile little island. The castaway had absorbed himself in labors for survival. He had cooked and eaten all the birds, and now the precious water in the cask was getting low. After a tedious exploration over the barren sands, hills, and rocks, he had been unable to discover a rivulet of water. If only there were some wild goats on this island, some 4-legged creature of God that would lead him to their drinking place. But there were only rats and lizards slithering through the dry, sun-bleached sand. 8 days passed, and no rain. Desperately, he dug a full fathom deep in the sand, but could find no moisture. The water in the cask made a gentle swishing sound. It was now down to less than a quart. While wandering near the shore, looking in vain for seabirds, the marooned man came upon a large hawksbill turtle. Using the fowling piece as a fulcrum, he flipped it over on its shell. As it struggled helplessly to right itself, the weakened sailor ran back to his tent for his hatchet. The thought of food gave a fiery frenzy to his right arm, and he hacked away at the soft undershell of the reptile. His craving appetite was whetted even more when he found eggs within the terrapin. He boiled the eggs and the flesh together with the last of the water to make a broth. He was surprised that the meat was so tender and sweet. The turtle's warm blood would have to do as a substitute for water. Until it rained. 2 more days passed. The sailor's hunger subsided, and his mouth ached for a few drops of soothing water. The constant drinking of the sticky blood made him nauseous and feverish. He lay on his back in the sun-scorched sand, his dry lips glued together, completely enervated and helpless. Then he thought he saw the figure of the tar he had murdered hovering over him. The dead man was stabbing a jagged knife into his abdomen, twisting it, hollowing out the area just under his rib cage, just as he had scooped out the shell of the turtle. Feebly, he felt for his stomach. His hand and mind recoiled at the slimy touch of a slippery loop of his own intestine. The sailor raised his head fearfully to look. Could it be that the murdered man had returned to exhibit pain, torture, and revenge? A disgusting, hooked bill from which dangled long, bloody ribbons of flesh and viscera was gnawing away at the inside of his thigh. A giant tortoise, the mate of the turtle he had eaten, was devouring him alive. And there you have it, my humble listeners. Now, I'm off to eat my dinner. Anyone for turtle soup? Good night and good fright.